Before we get to our show, here is a podcast we think you're going to love.
Have you ever caught your cat looking just over your shoulder and wondered, maybe this is the end? They're definitely seeing a ghost and or murderer and or home invader that I can't see yet, and I'm truly done for. Well, our working theory here at Paranormal Captivity Podcast is that cats are capable of way more than we give them credit for, or that they've convinced us they're capable of. Hashtag conspiracy much? Join me and my sister Julia as we dive into the world of crime-solving cats and ghost hunting cats and werewolf cats. We like to shake it up. And who knew there was a whole literary genre dedicated to this investigation? Well, our mom, that's who. Our main resource in this journey is a cozy mystery series our mom read growing up called The Cat Who, where a doofy journalist continues to ignore the very implicit instructions of his Siamese cats, who always seem to know who murdered the local housekeeper and other such small-town happenstances. We're all just kitty sleuths here. You can listen to us on all your favorite listening platforms and online. We're at Paranormal Captivity Pod on Instagram and Paranormal Pod on Twitter. We hope you can join us on the case. Cue some slinky noir music and cat meows.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi, Liz.
Did you know that this is Perhaps It's You?
It is?
Yeah, it's an Unsolved Mysteries rewatch podcast.
What?
And
How did I get here?
It's so unofficial.
Where am I?
It's a very unofficial.
It's unofficial?
Yeah, it's not sanctioned by the entities that be at Perhaps It's... What?
It's not sanctioned. It's not sanctioned by Perhaps It's You either, honestly.
It's not. I'm so tired. I'm sorry.
We're a little rusty. We didn't have an episode out last week. So it's been like 2 weeks since we've recorded.
I know. Well, we had our 100th episode, and we partied so hard.
We needed a break.
That we needed a break.
Yeah, actually, it was Thanksgiving, and
no, it was because
we were out of town, and
it just
busy.
led to a bacchanal. It was just like carnival in here, and after I cleaned up all that glitter, I was like, I'm tired.
No kidding.
Let's take a week off. Or it was Thanksgiving.
One of the two. It's up to you to decide which.
Fact or fiction. Figure it out. Wow. What do we usually do at the top of these shows?
Do we have any updates? I don't think we do.
I think the update is that we're amazing and everybody loved our 100th episode and congratulated us. And we deserve a huge pat on the back. Is that an update?
Sure. That counts.
That we're podcasting gods, reinventing the medium.
It is hard to believe we've had 100 episodes. This is
we
101, I guess.
I find it a challenge to record.
Well, that's probably always going to be true. But...
And then every so often someone that doesn't live here is like, can I be on our show? And we're just like, no. Can't figure that out.
We don't know how to record remotely still.
It's like,
I'm sorry. We'd love to have you on the show.
That would be fun, but... too damn bad.
We've tried to do it several times, and every time we have failed.
It's really been a huge clusterfuck.
Yeah. So as much as we'd like to have guests who don't live here, because most of the people we know in podcasting don't live here, we don't know how to do it.
Our guests are our friends.
We barely can figure out how to work our own equipment just ourselves. Today, we were looking at our mixer, and I said, is this red light supposed to be on?
Nope.
I don't think it is. Maybe, well, it's not normally on. Is it supposed to be on? I don't know, because I don't know how this works.
That's another... I mean, we've never had it on before. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have it on.
Right. So we just kind of fiddle with the little knobs until it seems like we sound okay.
The point is, dear listeners, you too could have a podcast. It's not that hard. It's a time commitment. I'll give you that. But beyond it, it's not as technical as you were thinking right now. And really, at this point, you could just do it on your phone.
Honestly, you probably should. Probably be easier.
Yeah, just don't have a co-host.
Yeah.
And just talk to yourself. And
right, that makes things very simple.
Yeah.
More than one person complicates it a little bit.
You could have the 37th top podcast in Croatia one week, too.
Yeah.
I know that's your dream, your childhood dream. And it came true for us, and it could come true for you as well.
So inspirational.
Oh my God, you know what I realized? Is that I do not have a recommendation. Like, as I'm sitting here, like, oh, I'm so ill prepared.
Well, maybe by the end of the episode you'll
Maybe something will come to me. Okay, I do have a candy for us to taste. This I picked up at H Mart, which is a chain of very nice, gigantic Korean grocery stores. And if you live by it in H Mart, I cannot tell you how jealous I am of you, but it's probably good for my budget that I don't have regular access to one. But they had these Kit Kats that are apple pie flavored, but they're purple.
For some reason, they're purple.
And they say Halloween break on them.
I'm not sure why they're purple. They also sort of smell, I feel like blueberry almost.
I like that the like little individual packet just has like 2 ghost hands on it.
Sure.
Just 2 floating hands.
Halloween.
Yeah, it's a little creepy.
They honestly smell really... I just busted mine open and it smells like a really nice fall candle or something.
Yeah, it has a like... You know when you go in that fall shop at the apple orchard that sells like potpourri and shit? That's what this smells like to me.
And it is purple.
And it's purple. Like the pumpkin pie you know and love.
All right, I'm going to take a bite.
All right.
That's good.
That's pretty good. It a little bit tastes like a candle.
A little bit. It tastes like a candle smells, but it's pleasant.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Does taste like apple, despite being purple.
Yeah, I think maybe the purple's for Halloween. I'm not quite sure.
I assume it is. It's like a lilac color.
It's very pretty.
It is nice.
Okay.
These are good. Okay. I've had worse Kit Kats for sure.
I wish we could have those pumpkin spice Kit Kats again, but Curtis fucking ate them, so...
Don't let him get a hold of these, because these are really good.
Yeah, no. I've been keeping them in... We have a special snack drawer in the studio, so... That's really where the pumpkin spice Kit Kat should have been. That was my mistake. Yeah, I like this. It's good. Mm-hmm. Right, well, there's that important update.
I think that might be all we have. This episode is weird.
It's kind of all over the place. It's a mishmash. I believe listener Robin warned us that it sucked, and...
Robin, you were not wrong.
Yeah, you weren't wrong. It's not good.
It is not great. This is season 4, episode 21.
Did you see that this season has 25 episodes?
Yeah, so we're getting close to the end.
Yeah, but it's further away than I thought.
It is further away than I thought. And the other thing is that we have...
I mean, I always knew how many episodes were in this season because I've carefully planned it out. Oh no, I watched this like 20 minutes ago.
Here's the other thing is that we are into December now, and we don't specifically have a programming update because I think we're not totally sure how many more episodes we're going to be able to record this month, but we may have another week or 2 off over the holidays, so just be prepared for that.
Will.
So if there's a week where there's no episode out, just know that it's probably because we weren't able to get together to record. The holidays are coming up. It's a busy time.
You're just going to have to cry yourself to sleep over that one. There's nothing we can do.
There will be a Patreon episode out, though, on time. It may be the last day of the month, but that's still we still consider that on time.
Absolutely.
So you will get a Patreon episode if you subscribe to our Patreon at any level, so you'll have that content. But just a heads up that we
give special consideration to people who cough up $1.
Yeah.
That's just the facts of this cold capitalist hellscape.
Yes.
If you didn't cough up $1 to hear a Patreon episode, that's fine, but you'll never get to hear us gush over young BD Wong, and that's your choice.
That's your choice.
Because you could have stolen that $1.
You could have. And somehow send it to us in electronic form, and then you'd be able to hear
it. You could have fished that out of a fountain, and you saw that money in there, and you went, no, that's rude. All right, well
that's a choice you made. All right. So we watch on Amazon Prime. As you know, Unsolved Mysteries can be found on YouTube now. I think there's a Roku channel. But this is season 4, episode 21 on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
And our first mystery is an unexplained death. This is the murders of...
I thought it was a wanted.
Is it a wanted? Oh, you're right. It's a wanted.
Okay, can I say my mustache right away?
Yes.
I don't even know whose mustache this was. I think it was one of the cops.
There were a lot of cop mustaches. I took a few photos.
It's kind of scraggly and gray and not very good.
Is it this mustache?
Yeah, Mac named that the pathetic attempt.
This is Sergeant Bruce Corral of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, and it is a pathetic attempt. It's very straggly.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. It's not he shouldn't be growing a mustache.
It also looks like he's cut it too short, almost.
I'm assuming he knew he was going to be on TV. He wanted to give his mustache a trim to look good. And you know when you're like plucking your eyebrows and you like pluck, you've gone too far?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what happened with this mustache.
I think that's probably true.
So,
But he didn't want to get rid of the mustache entirely.
No
there
one would
goes his
recognize-
credibility as a police officer.
we wouldn't even know if he was a cop or not.
Right.
And probably none of his friends and family would have recognized him. Probably no one has seen his bare lip in like 25 years.
To this episode's credit, tons of mustaches. I think everyone in
true.
this episode has a mustache.
That's true.
So there's
Even
that.
the wildlife.
Even the wildlife has mustaches. Okay, so this isn't wanted. You're right. We're looking for the murder of Marie Lilienberg and Maria Wallen. So, 23-year-old Marie Lilienberg and 25-year-old Maria Wallen were Swedish women who met in Valley, Colorado in January 1983. They were working in a hotel as housekeepers, although Robert Stack calls them chambermaids.
Yep.
Like, what year is it, Robert Stack? Chambermaid?
It's chambermaid year.
That is bizarre. So they were working as housekeepers in Colorado for the winter during the skiing season, and then they planned to travel through California before they had to head home to Sweden. So when the skiing season ended, the summer of 1983, they went hitchhiking through California. However, their friends warned them against this. They said it's not safe in America to hitchhike, and they recommended that they not do it.
I think they felt safe because they were together.
They did. So they felt that they could size up anyone who picked them up and determine if they were dangerous. And Maria, in particular, carried a knife and was convinced that she'd be able to defend herself. And they were going as a pair, so you can understand why they would feel safer.
This story is just another reminder that, honestly, you should not visit this country. Just wherever you are, stay there. Or go somewhere else.
I mean, yeah.
That's like my first note. After a drawing of the pathetic attempt, it just says, don't visit this country.
That's not bad advice.
Brought to you by the United States Tourism Board.
So several truck drivers gave the women rides, all while telling them about the dangers of hitchhiking.
And they went, yeah, which is probably what I would have said too. Shut up.
Mark Hansen, who was interviewed for Unsolved Mysteries, says that a lot of truck drivers will pick up women who are hitchhiking in an attempt to keep them safe because they recognize that some people who are picking up hitchhikers are doing so with nefarious purposes. And he says when he picked up the women, he gave them a ride to, where did he take them to? San Diego to Compton. And he said he tried to act like basically a big brother and discourage them from continuing to hitchhike. He said it's not like Europe. It's not safe for women here to hitchhike with strangers. But again, they were like, whatever, dude, we're together. We can fend for ourselves.
We're both trained ninjas. You don't know us.
Pretty
We're
much.
fine.
So when he got to Compton, he had one of his friends give the women a ride to Oakland, which is near San Francisco. The women were last seen alive on July 22nd while hitchhiking near Redwood City. They were heading back to Los Angeles so that they could catch a flight back to Sweden on July 24th. But then 2 days later, after they were last seen in Redwood City, their backpacks, passports, and other items were found in a dumpster in the city of Commerce, a Los Angeles suburb. Along with their belongings, a travel diary was found, which helped investigators determine where they had been and who they had been with, and then a roll of undeveloped film, which also helped them determine.
And we see a lot of those pictures.
Where they
It just
were.
makes the segment sadder.
I know.
They were clearly like having fun on this vacation, the two of them, and
Yeah, they had just spent the entire winter working, probably saving up their money. They were going on a last little trip through California, and then they were headed
see
home.
the coast. Yeah, they're murdered like 2 days before their flight back to Sweden.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. So after they vanished, both of their fathers came to the United States hoping to find their daughters through generating media attention. Several leads did come in, but no trace of the women were found. But then 4 weeks later, on August 18th, 2 deer hunters found their decomposing bodies in Los Padres National Forest near Santa Barbara.
How traumatic must that have been, too?
Yeah, no kidding. They were just walking through the woods, and then
They
they
just find an
two-
arm, and then that leads them to the rest of the bodies.
I know, it's really awful. So both victims had been sexually assaulted and stabbed to death. Dental records and jewelry confirmed their identity. Police had few leads in the case until 8 years later when a caller contacted the Swedish consulate, claiming that a, quote, woman hater named Lauren was responsible for the murders.
It was an early incel.
At the time of the broadcast, he had never been identified, and the murders remained unsolved. So,
One of the descriptions of him, like, it says, like, yeah, he had, like, thinning red hair, blah, blah, blah. And it said he had watery eyes.
watery, bulging eyes.
I don't know why I find that so specific and weird.
It's very bizarre.
I mean, I have watery eyes. Would that
frightening?
Would that be in a description of me?
Watery, bulging eyes?
It's like Liz Walker, 5'6", dark hair, neon bangs, watery eyes.
So this is what the caller claimed about this Lauren character, that he was from Canada and that he apparently hated women. He also drove from Canada to Mexico during the summer in a white van with a green canoe on top. Lauren apparently told the caller that he had come through San Diego and had met 2 Swedish women who had tried to con him. According to the caller, he confessed to killing both women, and this is his description. He was over 6 feet tall, had a slight build, was 175 pounds, protruding nose, red hair, and watery, bulging eyes. So
why is that funny?
Bizarre. So there's
also, what do you think the con was? Because
there was no con.
Assuming any of this is true, I'm guessing the con was that they wouldn't sleep with him.
That's probably true.
Which is not a con, by the way.
That's not a con. So this case is officially unsolved. However, there's a bit of a twist in that their murder is sort of connected to a serial killer duo that was operating in California at the time. So here's what the Unsolved Mysteries wiki said. And this sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole this morning.
Okay.
So the anonymous caller later came forward and helped police locate the man named, quote, Lauren. However, there was not enough substantial evidence to convict him for the crimes. Lauren was later arrested and convicted in other crimes, but has never been charged with these murders. Here is the twist. Lauren is believed to be Lauren Joseph Herzog. He and Wesley Shermantine were dubbed the, quote, speed freak killers. Herzog died by suicide on January 16, 2012, and Shermantine is currently on death row. So these serial killers, this is according to Wikipedia, the Speed Freak Killers is the name given to serial killer duo Lauren Herzog and Wesley Shermantine. Together, initially convicted of 4 murders, 3 jointly, and suspected in the deaths of as many as 72 people in and around the San Joaquin County, California area.
Oh my God.
They received the Speed Freak moniker due to their methamphetamine use. Herzog.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So this is from thoughtco.com. Lauren Herzog and Wesley Shermantine Jr. were childhood friends, having grown up in the same street in the same small farming town of Linden, California. They spent much of their childhood exploring the hills, rivers, and mine shafts of San Joaquin County. Herzog and Shermantine remained best friends through high school and into adulthood, and it seems that they did that where what one did, the other did as well, including bullying, binge drinking, and eventually using drugs. After high school, they shared an apartment for a while in nearby Stockton and began heavily using methamphetamine. Together, their behavior spiraled. Investigators believe that Herzog and Shermantine began murdering people when they were around 18 or 19. However, it's possible that it started much earlier. It seems that no one was safe. The pair murdered friends and strangers alike.
Whoa.
The 2 were arrested on March 1999 for suspicion of the murder of 2 girls who were missing. Their names were Chevelle, or who went by Chevy Wheeler, who was 16 and had been missing since October 16th, 1985, and Cindy Vanderheiden, who was 25 and who vanished on November 14th, 1998. Once in custody, I guess one of the 2's blood was found in their car. And that's how they were initially suspected of the murders. Once in custody, the childhood bond that Herzog and Shermantine had quickly dissolved. During a 17-hour interrogation, Herzog turned on his best friend, describing Shermantine as a cold-blooded killer who would kill for no reason. He told detectives that Shermantine was responsible for at least 24 murders.
Fuck.
He described an incident when Shermantine shot a hunter who they ran into while they were on vacation in Utah in 1994. Utah police confirmed that a hunter was shot to death in that area, but it was still classified as an unsolved murder. He also said that Shermantine was responsible for killing Henry Howell, who was found parked off the road with his teeth and head bashed in. Herzog said that he and Shermantine passed Howell parked on the highway and that Shermantine stopped, grabbed his shotgun, and killed Howell and then robbed him of what little money he had. Herzog also said that Shermantine killed Howard King and Paul Raymond in 1984. Tire marks matching his truck were found at the scene. He gave specific details as to how Chevelle Wheeler and Cindy Vanderheiden and Robin Armtrout were kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and killed, and said that during it all, he just watched. apparently. Wesley Shermantine was charged with first-degree murder of Chevy Wheeler, Cindy Vanderheiden, Paul Kavanaugh, and Howard King. He was found guilty of the 4 murders and given the death penalty. He now resides on death row in San Quentin State Prison.
Wow.
Lauren Herzog, which was charged with murdering Cindy Vanderheiden, Howard King, Paul Kavanaugh, Robin Armtrout, and to be the accessory to murder of Henry Howell. He was found not guilty of being an accessory to the murder of Henry Howell. He was acquitted in the murder of Robin Armtrout, but he was found guilty of first-degree murder of Cindy Vanderheiden, Howard King, and Paul Kavanaugh. He was given a 78-year sentence, but then on August 2004, a state appeals court overturned Herzog's conviction, saying that police coerced his confession during the long interrogation sessions. They also said that police ignored Herzog's right to remain silent, deprived him of food and sleep, and delayed his arraignment for 4 days.
Oh, jeez.
A new trial was ordered, but Herzog's lawyers worked out a plea deal with the prosecutors, and he was actually released. On January 17th, 2012, Lauren Herzog was found dead hanging in his trailer.
Oh. That was a twist.
Leonard Padilla says that he spoke with Herzog earlier in the day to warn him to get a lawyer because Shermantine was turning over maps to where they had buried the bodies of their other victims. An autopsy. So this is this ThoughtCo website. Yeah. Included this snippet of information at the very end of their article that I included because it's hilarious. An autopsy of Lauren Herzog's was performed, and in the report, the various tattoos found on his body were described in detail. Reportedly, much of his skin was covered in satanic images, including skulls and flames.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Classic satanic images.
Only
skulls and flames.
Satanists get tattoos of skulls and flames. No one. It's not like one of the most common types of tattoos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, frustratingly, there's very little information about Marie and Maria's murders on the internet, other than what's on Unsolved Mysteries. It seems like, other than the fact that this Lauren was connected to their murder by this anonymous caller, there doesn't seem that there was ever any evidence that definitively connected them to the murders of these women, but they were in the same area, operating at the same time, and this anonymous caller did say that someone named Lauren was responsible. So
was he from Canada?
That I was never able to determine.
Okay.
If they were actually from Canada.
But it seems like they killed more people than have been accounted for.
That's true. And they weren't from Canada, but I wasn't able to determine if they had ever traveled to Canada. Who knows? Right. It didn't seem like they did a lot of canoeing, so his information is probably not super accurate, but it's a coincidence, at least. So
I mean, I feel like a van with a canoe on top is much less creepy than just a van. So
that is kind of true, because then there's a purpose for the van, besides just like murdering and kidnapping.
So you don't go, oh, why does that guy have a van? That's creepy. You go, well, look, he loves the canoe.
Right, obviously that's why he has a van.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So maybe it was a decoy canoe.
Yeah. These
I was not expecting all this information, and it's very interesting.
It was super interesting. And these two murderers seemed like they murdered almost indiscriminately. If they needed $20 to get some lunch,
killing people.
They would just kill you and take your $20. So
disgusting.
They were also known to attack women. So it would not surprise me at all if they were the culprits in this crime.
So sad.
And it also kind of makes sense too that there would be two killers, because
I was gonna say it's not that it's impossible, but it seems hard for one person to stab two people to death without one of them getting away. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would make more sense to me if there was actually two killers.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, unfortunately, like I said, it's frustrating that there's almost no information other than the Unsolved Mysteries wiki and then the sitcom.com message boards, where a lot of people are like, well, it was obviously the serial killers, but
I mean, we don't actually know
the only information that exists online about these murders.
Poor women. They were just trying to enjoy their vacation.
I know. It's very sad.
It's a very tragic case.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing a little extra research on that.
I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole.
I like it.
Now we get an extremely long Amelia Earhart update.
This is just frustrating.
It's like most of the episode.
So Robert Stack is in an airplane hangar. He's wearing the classic trench, and he's like, one of our most beloved segments we've ever had.
I find that hard to believe.
Is the Amelia Earhart one. And I was like, really? That one that was just like racist and also just seemed made up? It was like the worst coverage of Amelia Earhart possible. Mm-hmm. That was one of your most popular segments of all time. Do better.
Yeah.
But then we sort of get a little bit of an update, which this one guy that we saw previously.
It's the guy with the shadow of a mustache.
Yeah, I forget what we call it.
Almost barely there.
It's
Anyway,
a
he
choice.
finds some metal that's like attributed to her plane because of the rivets or something.
But then it's not. Okay, so he finds some piece of metal and then uses that as an excuse to raise money to look for even more stuff on this island. I don't even remember which one that he's convinced Amelia Earhart crashed on. And then he holds this like press conference. Is like, mystery solved. I did it. I'm a genius.
We were able to definitively solve the mystery of Amelia
Earhart. He has
Earhart.
like part of a shoe and then like part of an airplane. But when they actually compared, and it's a very small part of an airplane, by the way. But when they take that piece of metal and compare it to like the model airplane that she would have flown, the rivets didn't line up. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, that's because it was repaired. And they were like, okay, but that wouldn't actually change the placement of the rivets. So this could not have come from Amelia. Basically, this one guy was like, I solved it. I'm a genius. And then all these other experts were like, that actually makes no sense. And I think with the new information that's come out about Amelia Earhart in the past couple of years, it makes even less sense. I think it's totally unrelated.
Yeah, I think when we actually covered that segment, we turned up some information that I think part of her body was found.
They think that they found her bones and they had been misclassified.
And
so
because of,
sexism.
And it was found on a totally different island.
So I think this guy just also found some old stuff and then was so determined. He wanted it to be Amelia Earhart so bad that he like made that work, even though that's not really what happened. So there's that update.
So you just summarized over half of the episode because it's pretty much...
It's pretty long, but really it's mostly a guy claiming he knows everything and then a bunch of people tactfully going, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get on to A Lost Love, which is sad. We briefly have to talk about Georgia Tann again, where Robert Stack goes, remember Georgia Tann? One of history's greatest monsters, this infamous baby broker who literally stole children and sold them? Well, there was another woman like that.
Great.
Her name was Bessie Bernard, which is too catchy of a name for such an evil woman.
I agree.
So this is the case of Joe Soul, who is seeking his birth family. And he finds out that he's adopted in this really tragic way that they reenact. It's 1944.
Oh, you mean when Oliver Twist tells him that he was adopted?
It's 1994. He's like playing for a ball and some other kid comes and takes it. And he like according to the reenactment, very politely is like, why did you do that? And the guy's like, because you're adopted. You're an adopted kid.
What did they dress these kids? This is the most ridiculous reenactment I've ever seen.
You don't think that's how kids dressed in the 1940s? Like,
maybe it is.
Like they were working in a poorhouse in Dickensian England?
They looked like they plucked one out of a chimney. It was like she was a chimney
It has
sweep.
like... You know how the kids are dressed when they go outside in A Christmas Story? But like covered in soot.
Yeah.
It's very sooty. I guess because
one of them has like this little like vest thing on.
Sure.
And I think maybe he's carrying a small briefcase. It's very strange.
As kids did. Okay, so he didn't even know what the word adopted meant, and he just went home crying, and he asked his mom if he was really adopted, and he didn't even understand that question. He just knew that the kids were being mean to him.
He said that their tone made him believe that whatever it meant, it was bad.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
So, and his mom was like, oh, okay, so you actually are adopted, but your parents died in a car accident, and we're your parents now, and we love you. And he was like, okay. But as he got older, he had more questions about his birth family, and eventually his mom was forced to admit that his parents had not actually died, and that they had got him sort of illegally. I don't know to what extent they knew it was illegal, but they had purchased him from a baby broker. So he was adopted as an infant in 1939 by Charles and Florence Soule. Charles was a successful attorney who had passed away in 1960. So 20 years later was when Joel learned that his birth parents had not actually died, and that his father had gone through great lengths to hide the information. I guess he did know it was sketchy because he didn't want anyone to find out the sort of the origins.
He had to have known.
He had to have known. You're right.
You don't just buy babies. I mean, I realize this was the past, but like...
I mean, yeah. So, eventually, Joe was able to access records. They acted like it was really hard for him to find these records, but in the reenactment, he literally goes to his dad's old office, and a man's like, here's his papers. So, I don't know how difficult that was.
Which was a lot of papers. I had to look through them.
Yeah, So, he was able to access records that shows that his birth name was Robert Wilson, and he was born, actually, on November 3rd, 1939, which he had previously not known was his birth date, and that his birth mother's name was Ruth Haverman. He learned that Ruth had lived at 677 Lexington Avenue in New York City. However, when he went there to talk to the home's owner, he learned that no one named Haverman had ever lived there. However, he did learn that there was a family named Haversack that had lived there, and that the home was once used as a home for unwed mothers. So it seemed to him that probably his mother's name was Haversack, and that she had been sent there by her family because she was pregnant and not married. And that sort of to cover the baby brokering trail, her name was purposely written down a little bit off,
It makes sense.
Yeah, so when he was looking through the files, he discovered that his father, Charles, had written all these letters with different adoption agencies, and including this baby broker, Bessie Bernard, who is just a terrible person. So he discovered that Bessie Bernard had been arrested for baby selling in 1949. His adopted mother, Florence, confirmed that Joe had been sold to them through the black market baby operation, and that she would then we see this reenactment of Bessie in a New York apartment yelling at her dad or someone else she worked with nah, we're making tons of dough, gotta put this ad in the paper to buy babies. I was like, this is really blunt, not sure that's exactly how it went down, but okay.
But we gotta sell those babies.
We gotta sell and buy babies. So they would sell babies for $2,000 in the 40s, which is
wow,
just an incredible amount of money. So she would put ads in different states and had this network of people selling her babies so that she could, sell them. And the babies were brought to New York and then would have their birth records changed to say that they were born there, and they would fudge other facts like the birthday and the birth parents. So Bessie Bernard had been arrested in October 1949. But they show this really silly reenactment where the police come to arrest her and they have a warrant and she's like, yeah, whatever. But then they go for her purse, which had a little black book in it, possibly an address book of her clients or some information about her network, who knows. But then she threw a fit and resisted arrest, and her father managed to run off with the book so that the police couldn't get it, which, I mean, in this day and age, they just both would have been shot. So, and they're lucky.
The reenactment is really silly.
It's very silly. It's very hard to take seriously considering how sad all of this is.
Considering they were selling black market babies.
Yeah. They're taking advantage of people who are in these not ideal situations due to society judging them, and then preying on them to buy the babies and then sell them for those exorbitant fees and not ever connect them to who they actually belong to. Or if this woman was more like Georgia Jan, literally just stealing children.
No kidding.
One or the other.
Well, and when he's interviewed for Unsolved Mysteries, he's like, I suddenly had to grapple with the fact that I was a commodity. That I was bought and sold on the black market. Can you imagine realizing that?
It's disgusting.
So difficult. I can't even imagine.
And he was a really cute kid, so maybe that factored into his $2,000 price tag. It's really, really weird. It would be also a weird thing to discover about your parents, which he presumably loved, that they were right,
they purchased him.
Oh, you were willing to buy a person.
Right.
And he was going through all these letters that his dad had written to adoption agencies, and he said that he kind of understood how desperate they were. He could see them getting more and more desperate to get a child, and apparently that's what resorted them to this
black market.
Yeah, but it's still pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then so we learned that Bessie Bernard was eventually found guilty of baby selling, but she was given only a 1-year sentence, and instead she just paid a $2,500 fine. So the price of one baby, basically.
Okay.
That's all she had to do for her crimes, and she passed away in 1989. So Joe is on the show talking about that he's worried he's never going to find his family because so many of the documents have been altered, and there doesn't seem to be records of, like, his original birth parents. So it was sort of a plea on the show, like, if you knew anything about his mother, who might have been named Ruth Haberman or Ruth Haversack. She seemed to have a friend named Lucy Bint, but we don't know how they know that. And he believed his father was named Robert Wilson and was an engineer in Hartford. And that he wasn't sure if he had been born in New York or Florida. So fortunately, this is solved. But, okay, so this aired in 1992, but it's not until 2013 Joe did DNA testing through Ancestry.com and was able to find 2 of his cousins.
Oh, okay.
But his mother had passed away in 1987, so she would have already have passed on when this episode aired. But he was able to meet his cousins, several relatives, and a half-brother named Robert.
Oh.
So that has kind of a nice ending. Unfortunately, this segment didn't bring him any closure sooner, but Bessie Bernard is a fucking terrible person, and I hope her soul's rotting in hell.
Yeah. Baby selling. Convicted of baby selling.
Can you imagine, like, spending your day selling babies and then, like, getting in bed and being like, oh, I'm going to sleep tight tonight.
Oh, no, I cannot.
Nothing weighs on my conscience.
Yeah, that's awful.
Real villain of that tale.
Definitely. All right, we got another one.
This one is actually pretty good. Some of the details are boring, but it's an interesting case.
Yeah, this is an unexplained death. And this is the death of Gary Simmons. So on October 16th, 1991, a Missouri bus driver named Tyrone Rollins. What do you think of Tyrone's mustache?
Oh,
Did
Mac
you draw
also
it?
named this one. It is very skinny and paltry, and Mac said it had a teenage quality, so it is called the Teenage Dirtbag.
That's very... This looks like a dirty mustache. It also has a large part down the middle.
Teenage dirtbag baby. Yeah.
Yeah, this is...
Tyrone, I hope you have better facial hair these
This
days.
is not a good look, Tyrone. There's also a very funny reenact. So he's a bus driver. There's a very funny reenactment where we see him and his mustache through the rearview mirror.
Oh, yeah.
It's very dramatic and very silly.
Dun, 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 dun.
So Tyrone, while he was hired as a bus driver in Missouri, so he was driving this bus, and every day there was like this cliff overhanging where his bus was parked, and he had this bad feeling about this area.
About this extremely ominous looking cliff. Like, no shit.
One day, the urge to investigate overtook him, and he went looking, and he discovered this cave.
This would have been us, don't you think?
Absolutely.
That we eventually would have been like, we gotta see what's in those cliffs.
Oh, yeah, we're exploring with our flashlights.
With our phones on flashlight. What's in this cave?
So he's in this cave, and he sees all these weird crystals, and he's going deeper and deeper. While inside the cave, he discovered the remains of a man named Gary Simmons.
I hope it was exactly like the reenactment where he literally finds a skeleton wearing a shirt and boots.
Robert Stack does call it the skeletal remains of Gary Simmons.
And then you just see Tyrone looking over his flashlight like, what? So good. That's a quality reenactment right there.
So he contacted the police, who determined that Gary Simmons was the man whose remains had been found, and that he was shot in the head. So police reopened the investigation into Gary Simmons' disappearance, because I think he had disappeared, like, I don't know, how many years? 8 years earlier or something?
It was quite a few. It was in the 70s.
Yeah, so he had vanished. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. In the 70s. He had vanished in October of 1974 and may have been murdered by a man named Tom Dixon. So during the 1970s, Gary had owned and operated he owned a lucrative chain of gas stations in Kansas City. And then he also had a hobby of horse trading. And his friends are interviewed for Unsolved Mysteries and talk about how he kind of got his family into the horse business as a fun hobby and something to do. And he was really into Appaloosa horses, which are like these spotted
Are they like
horses.
more expensive than other horses?
No, not really.
Okay.
They're definitely not the most expensive, but if you're talking like, it sounded like he was trading in like really, really well-bred show Appaloosas. So, I mean, they are like any horse. It's kind of a rich person's hobby. They can be pretty expensive.
That's going to be your hobby once this podcast takes off.
Horse trading?
Yeah.
Maybe. If it's miniature donkeys.
What would be a good like rich person hobby for you to take up after we get our $10 million deal with Stitcher?
I do like the idea of horse trading.
Yeah.
Because I like horses. But I'm not really sure. I don't know. Would you be, making like a corset maker?
Oh, that sounds great. I was thinking I would be like in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, how he was always going to Europe to buy antiques.
Oh, yeah.
That would, I think, be me. And I would act like that was work, like,
sure.
Another season, I must go to Europe to buy Fabergé eggs or whatever. That would be my rich person's hobby, I think. Plus setting up the Capybara Ranch, obviously.
Oh, obviously. Okay, so on October 14th, the day before he vanished, Gary learned that a man named Tom Dixon had a purebred horse that he was interested in selling. The next day, the two met at Gary's office. At 10:15 a.m., they left, and Gary told his secretary that they would return shortly. However, he did not say where they were going. 15 minutes later, Gary called his secretary and told her to write a check to Dixon for $30,000, which is that would be a lot of money for a horse today. I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
And when he's told how much the horse is, he's like, whoa, that must be some horse. He's like so impressed by the price of the horse.
I mean, I do recognize that some horses sell for a lot more. Like, if we're talking like the top race horses or something like that. But like, I don't know. I'm not really I've never been in the Appaloosa show world, but $30,000 seems like a lot.
You will be when we're so wealthy.
At 11 a.m., Dixon arrived and picked up the check. He later met with Gary to get his signature, although nobody knows where this meeting took place. Gary was last seen alive at 11:30 a.m. at a truck stop 10 miles from his office. He was apparently looking out the window waiting for someone. Just before noon, Dixon showed up at Gary's bank. Gary called the president of the bank, claiming that Dixon was coming to cash the check. The bank manager, of whom Gary was one of his best customers, approved the check and also suggested if Dixon was interested in opening an account with him as well. Dixon declined, claiming he was in debt and needed the cash to retire his said debts. Around 5 hours later, Dixon arrived at a salvage yard 11 miles from the bank, driving Gary's Lincoln Continental.
Not suspicious at all.
Oh, definitely not. The man at the scrapyard had a ridiculous mustache as well.
Oh, yeah. I didn't draw that because I feel like this guy's a dirtbag.
I think he is. So Dixon asked if he could have the
Which
car
is ironic because I
flattened.
called that other mustache the teenage dirtbag. That guy's not a dirtbag. He's fine.
Yeah.
But this guy was like, oh, you need to get rid of the car of someone you've clearly murdered? Let me tell you how to do it.
Oh, yeah, because Dixon apparently flat out asked if the car could be made so that it wasn't able to be identified. And the guy was like, oh, yeah, I got your back.
Oh, wow, you really know this scrapyard guy super well. If you can just drive up and say, hey, can you help me cover up a crime? He's like, you know what you really should do.
Oh,
like,
what?
what?
You know, the scrapyard guy, like, specializes in this.
Or they're, like, childhood friends.
Or something like that. But the salvage man actually suggested that Dixon put the car in the Missouri River.
He's like, what you should really do is put a brake on the accelerator and drive it into the river. And he was just like, oh, yeah, thanks, man. Bye.
Great idea.
What?
I know. Around 5 hours later, Dixon arrived at... Oh, hold on. The next day, Tom Dixon was dropped off by a friend at a truck stop and was never seen again. 6 months later, on April 25th, 1975, Gary's car was pulled from the Missouri River. Police had no idea what happened to the two men until Gary's skeletal remains were located in 1991.
And at some point, the cops like, well, we didn't even know there had been a crime. It was just two men who disappeared, which happens every day in America. And I was like, it does?
Okay.
Two grown men just disappear? He was acting like maybe they fell in love and ran off together.
I mean, I guess maybe.
And that's why he put his car in a river.
He had this thriving business. He had this hobby of buying and selling horses. He had a family. Like, I don't know why he would just up and disappear.
He literally went to a scrapyard and was like, how do I get rid of this car? The most suspicious thing ever. I don't think they just ran off together.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I drew some cop's mustache also, and I called it Mr. Intense.
Mr. Intense. All the cops in this episode had mustaches.
And were super intense about it.
All right, so let's see. Tom Dixon is the prime suspect in Gary's disappearance. However, he has never officially been charged, and to my knowledge, he's like completely missing. A private investigator hired by Gary's family stated that Gary disappeared just before he was to testify in a federal investigation about black market gasoline sales. The investigator also suggested that Dixon was used to lure Gary and kill him. However, investigators did not believe this theory, as Gary was not involved in the purchase of illegal gasoline.
Okay.
So the result is that it's still unsolved. As Unsolved Mysteries was still filming the story, a new witness named Roy Hilton came forward. Roy knew both Gary and Tom and claims that the horse deal was not bogus and that Gary had actually shown him the horse. He also claimed that Gary had made phone calls to his bank and to the office from the Whispering Downs Horse Ranch on the day of his disappearance. Roy believes that Gary may have been killed over black market gasoline sales because Gary's gas station business had been failing, as many in the oil and gas station business had been hit hard by the 1973 oil crisis. However, his brother claims that he was not involved in black market gasoline sales. The case is now considered even more complicated than before. Police believe that Tom Dixon may know who killed Gary Simmons or may actually be the killer, but police only have enough evidence to have an arrest warrant for auto theft in the stealing of the subsequent destruction of Gary's vehicle. He is likely now in his 80s, and authorities believe that he could even be deceased. Some investigators now believe that he was killed along with Gary. However, this has not been confirmed.
Interesting.
Sadly, Gary's brother Jerry passed away in 2016 at the age of 67.
Wait, someone named their kids Gary and Jerry?
Gary and Jerry.
That was a poor choice.
So
I hadn't considered that Tom Dixon was also murdered due to him going to the scrapyard and that being so suspicious to me.
Yeah, same.
But, I mean, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess Gary Simmons went to see someone about a horse and ended up a skeleton. That's about it.
It's strange to me that I could not like an episode that involves a skeleton wearing boots in a cave.
It's this Amelia Earhart thing. It really taints the whole episode.
So then we get a totally unnecessary update about Jackie Dragon that was looking for her birth family. It's no new information. We've already talked about that. Okay, so now we have a fraud that
lightning fast.
It's so quick. It's almost hard to follow. It happens so fast. And it starts with Robert Stack just standing in a warehouse full of boxes that are clearly empty. And he is complaining about Fidelity National Medical Company, which was almost like a pyramid scheme, except they didn't even bother having any products. So, and the example is a witness who's going by Robert Jones, but it's that thing where they you can't see him and it's not his real name. So if you try to track down Robert Jones, good luck, because that's fake. So he was interested in investing in Fidelity National Medical Supply. I think they put out ads that they were looking for people to franchise it. So he went to look at the business. He was driven there in a limo, Samantha.
Oh,
I know.
That
so
must
fancy.
be legit.
And he had also contacted the Better Business Bureau, and there was no complaints. And I think he did a little other bit of research before he went. And he just looked around, and they wouldn't let him in the warehouse because they claimed it was medical supplies. But that doesn't really make sense, because wouldn't he be selling them? They were you can't.
Very little about this makes sense.
They're you can't go in the warehouse, obviously, because of the restrictions on pharmaceuticals, but you can see it through this window. And he was like, oh, yes, looks great. And the phone's ringing, whatever. It seems like this very happening business place.
Sure.
Except that, wouldn't he be getting those medical supplies later?
I don't know.
But he's not even allowed to go in the warehouse.
Here's some advice. Just the phone's ringing and people looking busy does not mean it's legit.
A thriving business.
Yeah.
So he purchased a distributorship from them for $54,000, his life savings. He was one of 300 people who invested before the IRS became suspicious. In February of 1992, the IRS, FBI, and the Oklahoma City PD raided the headquarters. And then you see this great footage of them going into the warehouse, cutting open the boxes with box cutters, and literally every single one being empty, and them throwing the boxes around because they're so light. Because according to their investigation, Fidelity National had never bought or sold anything. So it was selling these distributorships to people that meant absolutely nothing.
Quite the scam.
Took people's money. They were trying to take a lot of people's money in a very short period of time and then just flee, right? So that people would be left with nothing. It's not really clear to me, but the update is, it's not clear to me how they figured this out, but the key figures in the scam were Thomas Alfred Flanagan and Harold Frederick Kruger, who were convicted of conspiracy and mail and wire fraud charges. Both served 9.5 years in prison. Kruger was arrested in San Antonio, Texas, weeks before the story aired, so Unsolved Mysteries didn't even help with that. And then in August of 92, Flanagan was arrested in Atlanta, Georgia. That one thanks to the viewers' tips. They have both since been released.
Okay.
So, there you go. That's it.
Possibly the most boring mystery
it's
ever.
So short, and it's just like, yeah, I guess don't invest
if you
in stuff like
blink, you
this.
might miss this last one.
I almost didn't see it at all because I thought the episode was ending with this unnecessary update on Jackie Dragon, who has the greatest name ever. And I was just about to turn it off when Robert Stack started standing by boxes. And I was like, what the hell is this? We don't have time for another mystery. But it just is really fast and boring.
The only reason I could tell it was still going was because they played the in-between music, the in-between segment music.
Yeah,
and
you're smart.
I was about to turn it off, and I'm like, wait, why are they playing that? Is there another one? And then sure enough, there was this tiny one at the end.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Should we rate this weird episode?
I somehow will manage. Okay. What's
mysteriousness.
It's sort of mysterious. We don't know what happened in this horse case.
Nope.
Because was he just killed for the 30 grand? Was there something?
Was the 30 grand luring him to his murder? Like to his death?
Was there even a horse?
Was there even a horse? Was Tom Dixon also a victim, or was he the murderer?
Was it about black market gasoline sales?
There's a lot of mystery with that one. There's a lot of mystery in the first one too. We don't know what happened to Maria.
Yeah.
They might be connected to, their death might be connected to these serial killers, which is very interesting, but we don't know for sure, and we probably never will.
Which is just sad.
Yeah.
So actually, high mysterious, thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up. Reenactments?
Okay, we've got some bad reenactments in this.
Yeah.
Really bad. But I also love that guy Tyrone finding the skeleton. So I'm gonna say sideways. It's a wash.
Yeah, I think the good doesn't necessarily outweigh the bad in that.
All the lost love reenactments that take place in the 40s are terrible. I don't know why.
They're pretty ridiculous.
I don't know why people thought they were auditioning for A Christmas Carol. I
don't know.
It's
the pants on some of those children are just ridiculous.
And whoever's playing Bessie Bernard is like the worst dinner theater actor of all. I'm sorry if she's listening. My
sure
apologies, but
yeah.
Wow, it's not.
Is that a thumbs?
Look, actress who played Bessie, not your best work.
No.
Take from that and improve. Okay,
so that's a thumb sideways.
It's a wash. I loved Tyrone playing himself, but most of the rest of it.
Fashion.
Okay, no, there's some decent. Well, it's Stack who brings the fashion in this. We get a casual Stack in a cave where he's wearing like a buffalo check shirt and a brown leather jacket.
That's true.
That gets a thumbs up.
We do get a lot of early 90s women's fashion in the first one because the actresses that play the women, there's a lot of different shots of them hitchhiking on different days, and they're wearing all kinds of different outfits.
And we also get to see some of the photos from their film that was found.
Yes, and the mustaches, which we normally include in this category.
Okay, so I'm going to say
so much variety in mustaches. So thumbs up for fashion.
Even though some of the 40s fashion is dubious at best.
Yeah, Robert Stack, not sure why he's referring to the women as chambermaids at the very beginning.
Hey,
that's puzzling, but
I'm still giving it a thumbs up because we get to see him in both a cave and an airplane hangar and by a ton of empty boxes. I don't know how you can tell boxes are empty when they're sealed, but you just kind of can.
You can tell in this case. They're just a little too pristine.
They're like all so neatly stacked and none of them are, I don't know. Yeah. it's just not right.
Yeah, I agree. So thumbs up for Robert Stack.
Yeah, there's a lot of him in this too.
Good job, Stack.
Because there's a lot of little segments, so he needs to make a lot of transitions.
How are we going to rate this one? Because on one hand, I hate the Amelia Earhart thing, and it's most of the episode, but I didn't hate the other segments.
No, I feel like the Amelia Earhart thing, despite being their most popular segment of all time that they thought they needed to bring back, just taints it.
Yeah.
It makes it annoying. But your first mystery, good. This horse mystery, some of it gets a little bogged down in like the timeline of
and the
day.
gasoline thing and everything.
But it's still interesting.
Yeah.
Plus, his body is found in a literal cave
as a skeleton. And the lost love was sad, but it was a decent lost love.
The fraud case, whatever. This is a total throwaway. Though I do like the footage of the FBI agents just literally throwing boxes around, which is amusing to me. I guess. Oh God, I don't know.
I know. Is this like a classic 3? Is it a 3.5?
But I
feel like it can't be a 3.5 because the Amelia Earhart thing is so terrible,
I don't like it.
and it's most of the episode. But I don't think it's a 2.
I feel like it's a 3 with an asterisk.
Okay, yeah.
It's like a 3, but then the asterisk, you go down the asterisk and it says, but I didn't actually like it.
I feel like if you would have plucked the Amelia Earhart segment out entirely, this would be like a 4.
Yeah, you don't even need to replace it with anything. Just
take it out.
Take it out and make it a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Done.
So I think you're right. With the Amelia Earhart in there, it's a 3 with a caveat.
It's a 3, it's 3, and then you go to the extras and it goes, I don't want to watch this again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, 3 with asterisks. I can live with that.
All right, and that's a wrap. We're done with that. Done with that forever.
Done. Throw it in the garbage. I don't want to look at it.
Did you come up with a recommendation?
I did, because it literally was sitting right there.
That's helpful.
So, as I was definitely listening to every word you said, my eyes glanced over and I remembered that, this year I treated myself to a tea advent calendar. So, I thought I would talk about that because it's literally in this room. And I have been enjoying it.
It's really pretty. I really like it.
So this is from the company, oh my goodness, Bird and Blend Tea Co., which is in England. And so I get 24 teas behind little doors. So each day I get to treat myself to a different type of tea. But what I looked at several to decide what kind of tea advent calendar I was going to get. This company lets you pick all ones that are not caffeinated.
Right, because you can't have caffeine. So if you had a mix, then there would be some you couldn't drink.
I know, and I was going to do that anyway, but then I was like, then I'll just be bummed most days.
Right.
When I go, well, I can't drink this one either. And actually, these teas so far have been delicious. And some of them are matcha powders that you like...
Mix in?
Yeah, that you mix in more like a latte. Super delicious. So what is today, the 8th? Let's open up and see what we got. Just another door randomly flew off. Okay, so today's tea is called Moondot Dreams, which is a rooibos with apple pieces, rosehip, lavender, lemon peel, fermented lemon, orange peel, and natural flavoring.
That sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious. My tea yesterday, let's see what that was called. This has been my favorite one so far. My one yesterday was called Enton Mess, which is described as mashed strawberries, sweet crumbly meringue, and cream, which was made with apple, rose hips, elderberries, freeze-dried strawberries, licorice, strawberry pieces, and natural flavoring. This is one of the most delicious teas I've ever had. It's lovely.
Do you think you could place an order to get, like, more of it?
I think so. And so I've been saving the bags of the ones that I like, so... It's kind of a cool way to try different teas, which is something I like to do. I forget exactly what this cost. It was kind of a lot for 24 bags of tea, but it's just it's fun
though,
thing.
And you get to treat yourself every day, which is really
and I get excited about opening them and seeing what I got. So one day was empty.
Oh no!
But I think it's because it like slid.
Into another compartment.
So one day I'll get. I think it's like a littler thing, and it slid away. So one day I'll get 2.
Nice.
So that was a slight bummer. But yeah, this tea company is really good. So I would recommend Bird and Blend Tea if you like herbal tea, which I feel like someone's going to tell me that's not really tea. That's fine. I don't care.
I think
it's not, because it's not made with tea leaves. I don't know. I go to this one tea shop here to get rooibos sometimes. It's very snooty. And every time I buy it, they're like, this is not really tea.
Fuck you. I mean, it's tea if I'm going to call it tea.
It's like, first of all, you're the one selling it and running a tea shop.
You're calling it tea on the menu, are you not?
And I was like, also, can I just have it? Like, I'm going to drink it and I don't really care.
I don't care what it's called. It could be called dog shit. I'm still going to drink it because it's delicious.
If you would like something local or you were going to order something anyway, Tea Source here in Minneapolis, St. Paul has amazing tea.
They do have really good tea.
It's some of the best tea I've ever had, and it's shockingly affordable. I don't know what their deal is. But that lavender berry tea, oh my God.
Yum.
Anyway, so that's my update. Drink tea or tisanes or whatever the hell.
That's a great recommendation. So I confess I also sort of didn't have a recommendation, but I thought as I was arriving here that I should recommend this book series I just finished because I'm really into like cheesy horror novels.
Okay.
They're like the book equivalent to a cheesy horror movie.
Sure.
I read one about killer squid a while back that I think was called The Deep that was pretty good. They're the type of books that you have to sort of suspend your disbelief, but it's sort of just fun.
Written by the guy that wrote Jaws?
No, I think it was someone else.
Okay, because I think he wrote a squid book too.
Did he?
So you might want to look into that.
Interesting. So the reason I bring up this series that I really like is because I recently tried to read, there's a new one out about killer mermaids called Into the Drowning Deep, I think. And it was terrible and I hated it. And a lot of people really loved it. So maybe that's not, maybe that's saying something about me and not the book, but I thought it was really, really bad. But recently I finished a trilogy. I'm going to have to say, Alexa, if you're listening, friend of the pod, Alexa, stop listening right now. Or if you're arachnophobic, you may not. This is not for you. Because this is about killer spiders. But it was really good in a, mere entertainment sense. This is the Hatching series by Ezekiel Boone.
Okay, that sounds gross just from the title.
I mean, it sort of is gross, but I was never grossed out.
Well, that means nothing to me.
It's because this is a ridiculous book. It's.
But you look at maggots in people's eyeballs, so you're like, this isn't gross. It's just about killer spiders hatching out of bags of spider eggs.
It's kind of true.
One of the grossest things in the world.
If you really hate spiders, this is not for you. But I thought it was an entertaining series. The first one, I will say, is the weakest by far. But I read it because there's a Minnesota connection. I'm not sure if Ezekiel Boone is from Minnesota, but part of the book takes place in northern Minnesota. And then
where there's killer spiders?
Not to my knowledge.
Why doesn't this book take place in Australia?
I'm not sure.
Where there are literally killer spiders waiting to kill us.
Part of it also takes place in Peru, which is one of my favorite countries, and that's another reason why I read it. But it was pure entertainment. You really have to suspend a lot of disbelief about how science works, about how the military works, about how quickly people are able to invent things that'll just magically kill spiders. But it's a very entertaining book. The first one's called The Hatching. The second one's called Skitter. And then the third one is called 0 Day, which just came out last year. And I listened to the audiobooks. The narrator's really good. And it was a fun time. It's very fluffy and it's not very serious. And if you're into that, I think you'd like it. If you're into watching cheesy horror movies, you would like it, I think. Yeah, and there's 3 books. So
what's the second one called?
Skitter.
Ugh, that's gross. I don't like that.
I mean, it is about spiders, which do creep me out, but
I feel like I'm more creeped out by them the older I get. Does that make sense to anyone else?
Sure.
When I was a kid, I was like, well, they're harmless. Who cares? And now I'm kind of like, no, I don't like it.
I'm not super freaked out by spiders. If you're arachnophobic, obviously this is not the book for you. I wonder who did write that squid one. Maybe I can find
another.
it.
I know that the guy that wrote Jaws definitely wrote a book. Maybe it was an octopus, but I think it was about a killer squid. Squid are probably my favorite animal, though.
I'm kind of fascinated by giant squid.
They're very interesting. Oh, one of my favorite bad movies ever, though, is called Ice Spiders.
Oh.
And I think it's one of those movies that's made for Sci-Fi Channel. And it's about spiders that are at obviously this is very common geography. You have a ski resort, a place with exotic spiders, and a nuclear facility right next to each other, I think.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, the spiders become gigantic and then just start attacking. Gigantic, right? and then they just started attacking people on the ski slopes, which means that people are like continuing to ski despite the fact that giant tropical colored spiders are like eating and killing people, but other people are just like, hey, look at me ski.
Hilarious.
We should look for a clip from Ice Spiders. So good.
That's so funny. In the Song of Ice and Fire, the books that inspired Game of Thrones, there are ice spiders, and a lot of people on like Thrones Twitter like really wanted ice spiders to show up in the last season. It was a whole thing, and of course they never did.
Where are fucking ice spiders?
I know, right? So the book I was thinking of actually is called Below, and it's by Ryan Lockwood, and it is about giant squid, and it's the same sort of thing. But
you didn't like it.
No, I did like it.
Oh, that's the one you liked.
I liked the squid one. I didn't like the mermaid one.
Oh,
the mermaid one I thought was terrible, completely ridiculous, and I don't recommend it. Despite the fact it was about killer mermaids, that's like something that should just be fun. And
no, there's a show on maybe Hulu now that's about a mermaid or a siren. And I was like, I'm all for this. I'm in. I can't even remember what it's called. And then I started watching it and I was like, how is this show about a killer mermaid so fucking boring? And so like...
That's how this book was.
I was like,
so
I'm
boring.
so bored.
It was so boring. And it also does the thing that despite enjoying cheesy horror, what I don't like is when authors make characters do stupid things with the sole purpose of just putting them in danger.
Yeah,
It's just lazy to me.
Think it through a little more.
And then it makes it not scary because you're just frustrated by the character's behavior. That's basically what the whole book was like.
Huh. Now I kind of want to write a book about killer mermaids.
You should write a better one.
Yeah.
There's clearly a market for it.
And at the end, it turns out it's really a gargoyle romance.
That's quite the plot twist.
You thought they were mermaids, but it turns out somehow they're gargoyles.
Okay.
I kind of like that.
I kind of like that.
And then Mothman's there. and then the spiders attack.
And then Mothman's there.
This, of course, I'm like something that would happen on Riverdale. It's like, oh, and then this happens. Didn't see that coming. That's what's so great about Riverdale, though, is so many shows follow a logic that's not realistic at all, but we've just accepted as TV logic.
Sure.
And Riverdale's like, no, fuck that. This guy was going to escape in an actual rocket while dressed like Evel Knievel. And I'm going, I did not see that coming. Thank you, Riverdale.
Thank you.
So, yeah, maybe. Writers of Riverdale, if you're listening, Mothman. I want Mothman in Riverdale.
Mothman in there.
There's no reason why that could not happen. No, absolutely not.
None.
I want Jughead investigating Mothman. Bring it to me. I assume all the writers of Riverdale listen to the show.
I assume so. I assume everyone listens.
Yeah. So, hi, BD Wong.
Is that...
That's why we should start the show. Instead of Friends with Enemies, we should go, hello, BD Wong and other listeners. We'll just like and then maybe somehow eventually someone will tell them, do you know there's a podcast that every episode starts hello BD Wong and other listeners?
Could you imagine if we just put that out into the universe? Maybe eventually it'll become true.
I always thought that if I got to write a book, I would dedicate it to Ewan McGregor, just because I thought maybe then somehow he would like find out that I exist. Where people were like, did you know this random chick dedicated her book? And it just said like to Ewan McGregor because. He's like, oh, that's weird.
Guess I have to read it.
I mean,
why is it about killer mermaids?
It's like, twist, it's actually about gargoyle.
Oh, and Mothman's here? That's strange. But she dedicated it to me? All right.
He's like insulted. This book sucks. Why is it dedicated to me? I'll never be fully nude in the film adaptation of this, he says. Oh, wow.
The film adaptation of the killer gargoyle mermaid.
Yeah.
Poor Ewan McGregor is nude.
I mean, he's just often nude.
Okay, well, it makes sense. Maybe he is the gargoyle mermaid.
Oh my god, I love this movie so much. It's my favorite.
Or maybe he's Mothman. How could we choose?
Oh my... Will they make a movie of the Mothman romance that the listener is writing right now? And will Ewan McGregor play Mothman?
I would die.
I would die. And I would want that on my grave. is loosely connected to the movie Drawn to the Flame. Starring Ewan McGregor as Mothman. Wow, that was quite a tangent.
It really was. I think we're done now.
I think that's the end. BD Wong, I hope you've enjoyed listening.
I hope so too.
Please write us a 5-star review.
On iTunes, Apple Podcasts.
Follow us on social media.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Perhaps It's You.
We also have a Facebook group.
The Facebook group is much more active than the Instagram, I can tell you that. Go join the Facebook group.
What else? Join
Give
our
us
Patreon.
some money. Yeah,
We like money.
patreon.com/Perhaps It's You. We need it to keep this podcast going. It could be your money, and then you can get there's like 22 episodes or whatever.
Yeah, you'll get so much
In our
stuff.
back catalog. Plus, you get a postcard. Plus, if you give us a little more money, you get a coloring sheet every month. Plus, if you give us a little more money, you can get a quarterly gift.
Yeah, people just got some ghost slut ornaments, and
I
that
hope
could have
they're
been
on
you.
your holiday trees. Send
could
us
have been
a
you.
photo if they are. I'd love to see it.
Does anyone do like a Unsolved Mysteries themed tree?
That would be amazing. And it would have to be khaki colored.
I would never buy a khaki colored anything.
But if it's an Unsolved Mysteries tree, I think that just makes sense.
It does actually.
A khaki colored tree.
Well, I'm never gonna make it, so I hope BD Wong or one of our other listeners.
Khaki colored trees probably don't exist, but if someone wants to Photoshop a tree and like make it an Unsolved Mysteries tree, I'll put it on our very inactive Instagram account.
It will be us on the top.
Yeah.
You would think Robert Stack would be the tree topper? No,
It would be
it's us.
It would be us.
And
And there would be little Robbie Stacky ornaments.
Yeah.
Even though that has nothing to do with Unsolved Mysteries at all. So it's really more like, I guess this is a Perhaps It's You tree, not really an Unsolved Mysteries tree. I'm picturing like a little porpoise of justice.
That would be so good.
A ghost slut, of course. A little Just Sweats, like sweatshirt.
Aw, and so much Mothman's booty.
So much booty on that tree. Yeah.
Goodbye.